Welcome. I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher from our BizVision studio in the UK. You're watching the Top Gun Sales and Marketing Show on the BVTV network. Now, someone somewhere said that you need to have lots of ego or uber confidence to host shows like this. Well, after today, you may need to send me some get well soon messages. I'm about to be overshadowed by a true business show professional. He's known as the celebrity entrepreneur, personal branding expert, Wharton Business School graduate, media trainer to the stars, the host of the greatest show of all time on 77 WABC radio in New York City. You can see why I nearly called in sick today. Okay, let's get my hosting humiliation started and say welcome to Clint Arthur.
I'm very humbly grateful to be with you here today, Malcolm.
Well, I'm delighted to see you, but I'm a bit jealous. Where you are today is Acapulco, isn't it?
Si, senor. We came here for the pandemic, and now we are leaving in Acapulco, Maine. Loving it.
Yeah.
I love New York. I'm a native New Yorker. I've spent many great years there. Right now, it's not quite all that I would want it to be, although it's a great place to host my radio show, as you mentioned, the greatest show of all time, which I'm producing from my laptop here in Acapulco.
Excellent. Yes. Well, hey, I'm talking to the world from Northeast England. Now, let's get into the questions. Clint, you have an impressive portfolio of achievement. Briefly tell us about some of those achievements and what you're most proud about in your business career to date. Oh, and why?
I love helping other experts. I'm an author, speaker, coach, entrepreneur, and so are my clients. And the work I do is thus meta work. I help them, and then they in turn have their flocks, their tribes, their practice full of people who they help. So as a result of working with me, my students have booked more than 5,500 television appearances on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. There's my dog. They've published best-selling books on the New York Times bestseller list. They're on every big show. I've been on every big show, but my students, my friends, my celebrity posse, my wife and I are building a community of celebrity entrepreneurs. And it's this ripple effect of seeing a person who comes to me with barely enough money to take my class, and then a few years later, they've sold more than 2 million books.
Wow.
That's a beautiful thing. I'm thinking in particular of Hal Elrod, author of The Miracle Morning, and his whole massive franchise that he's created as a result of taking my celebrity launchpad. So, I've done a lot of great things, but it's the work that I do with my friends that really gets me jazzed.
Yeah, I can truly understand that. Now, everybody remarks that business has changed, especially in presenting yourself. But has it just shifted from making public presentations to doing it digitally? I think it's more than that, and that today's leaders need to learn new communication and visibility skills. What's your thoughts here?
I've done 8 live events since August 1st. Including an event at CNN Center in Atlanta with 132 people in attendance, including Dr. Oz, Dr. Drew, the Surgeon General of the United States, and Evander Holyfield, 4-time heavyweight world champion, all of whom were there in person. So I don't really believe that live events are dead. I think that a lot of people are still buying into the fear, they're buying into the hype, they're buying into the propaganda, if you will. And it really is going to take all of us to stop cooperating. It's going to take all of us to demand our rights back. And more important than that, it really is going to take each one of us to say, you know what, I am not going to live in fear. I'm going to participate in the world. I'm going to participate with people. And I believe in a healthy, prosperous, and connected future for myself and for the rest of my community. I know I do. And that's why even right now here in Acapulco, I have 10 of my clients for the fourth of 4 week-long masterminds who've come down here to be with my wife and myself and do the work that we need to do as entrepreneurs to, in this case, we're focusing on storytelling and selfie photos and selfie videos and what I call my selfie manifesto, which is really learning how to create marketing that you can use all around the world, all by yourself. So in that sense, in terms of the marketing that you need to do, you asked about a new form of communication. My form of communication is entirely done with my iPhone and my laptop. I have a MacBook Pro. I have an iPhone 11. I'll have an iPhone 12 in a couple of weeks. And I really do believe that, yes, CEOs need to learn how to communicate with that phone and with that laptop. They need to create marketing materials. If you follow me on Facebook, you will be able to see a lot of the stuff that I do. And all of it is created with my phone and with my laptop.
Brilliant. Yes. I'm totally with you on CEOs need to learn that new visibility, by the way, because of the 200 plus interviews we've done. Many are so nervous about being on camera. Clint, we have a global audience. Well, 2 or 3 in Australia. So I hope that counts as global. Does what you do and teach people translate well across the world? You put energy and charisma into all you do. Is that acceptable only in the USA?
No, what I do is I understand how people need to perform in order to be great on film, on video, in photos, in moving pictures, webinars like this. And this skill, this ability to convey a message in a powerful way, it's all about being able to get your message across and to be compelling in doing it. And that's something that's becoming more and more necessary for everyone as we move forward. So much more stuff is being done on Zoom, and Zoom is just like TV, except not as high production value. But everybody needs these skills. And, that's why I'm actually going to be hosting some events in London it's scheduled for the end of March. I'll be doing events at the Royal Society of Medicine and at the London Stock Exchange with Nigel Farage at the end of March. So I'm very excited about that. I've worked with a lot of major celebrities. I've worked with Buzz Aldrin and Ringo Starr and Dr. Oz and Martha Stewart and a lot of big names. But Nigel Farage is one of the ones that excites me the most because he's one of those historical figures. And I want to ask him questions about how do you create a vision where it takes you a quarter century and everyone's telling you you're crazy and a jerk all along the way. How do you hold a vision like that and make it come true?
Yeah,
that's really fascinating for me.
Yeah. Well, just remember that when you do meet him, he'll probably want to take you for a pint because he loves his pint. Now,
I'm sure.
Clint, how does a business leader make his or her presentations or media appearances more persuasive without appearing glib? What we may call authentic communication.
The thing you need to understand as a person communicating on a Zoom webinar or on television or on a stage or in front of anyone, even at a dinner party, is that these circumstances are very often not authentic. They're contrived circumstances. And the key to being able to perform naturally is to have lots of experience. For example, when Brooke Shields interviewed me on the Today Show, that was my 57th television appearance. And I thank God for every single one of those appearances, because when I was starting out doing television, the first thing I said to the publicist that I hired was, get me on the Today Show. I don't care how much it costs. And she laughed at me. She said, Clint, you have no TV experience. You're a middle-aged guy who nobody's ever heard of. You got a self-published book nobody's ever bought. No TV experience. Why are they going to put you on there? You need to work your way up to that kind of thing. And if I had not had 57 appearances to get ready for that moment, I never would have been able to handle it. When you walk into the studios at 30 Rockefeller Center, there's 1,000 lights in the ceiling. There are 10 cameras everywhere. And then they sit you down on a stool, and then there's Brooke Shields right there. And I would have wet my pants if I hadn't been warmed up to that fact by all of those previous appearances on local TV shows all around the country. And I really recommend that for anybody that has aspirations to be good on video. And it takes time, and you're going to suck at first. And you need to be okay with sucking, because like everything that you do, you need to work up to being great. And at first you're going to suck.
I totally with you there. My sort of appearance like that was on BBC, and that was quite intimidating. Clint, take me through the essentials that a business leader will learn from you on effective and persuasive presentation to get them, let's call, fit for purpose in this new era.
Well, first of all, what are you going to talk about? That's what I hear a lot. What am I supposed to say? And then I'll tell you, it's not ROI. It's not functions. It's not chemicals. It's not anything other than you. Like I said, I've got 10 of my students down here right now. And yesterday I told them, if you're ever talking about anything that anybody else can talk about, then you're talking about the wrong stuff. What you need to talk about are your own personal stories. Now, I discovered storytelling kind of by accident, because I wanted to be one of the guys who would go up on stage and sell at seminars and events, because those guys were making money while everybody else was paying money. And I wanted to be one of those guys. And I was smart enough to hire a mentor. And I believe in mentorship. Mentorship has accelerated my progress. I've had some great mentors. I've worked with a lot of the best. And luckily for me, one of my early mentors, he's like, what was the thing that changed your life, Clint? Tell me that story. And I told him about that. And I said, can I really talk about that? And he said, you've got to talk about that. What else are you supposed to talk about? When you are a speaker, you need to tell your story. So the first thing any CEO needs to do is get in touch with his own stories, make an inventory of his stories, the things that really changed his life. And the more embarrassing, shameful, the more you don't want to tell the story, that's how you know that that's the right story, because people want to hear the things you don't want to talk about. For example, after I graduated from the Wharton Business School, I went home to get the attaboys from my parents. And we're sitting in the living room having a conversation. What happens? My parents erupt into the biggest argument of all time. My dad storms out of the house, slams the door. I turn to my mom. I go, Mom, the way he resents you all these years, have you been cheating on Dad? And I'm sitting there on the couch where I grew up my whole life. Where did that question come from? I never thought that before. What kind of rude kid asks his own mom a question like that? And how come she ain't answering the question? Right. And then she goes, he's not your real father. Your real father was a doctor in the fertility clinic we went to for 6 years. And you look just like that guy. And I'm like, what, Mama? And the next day, not only didn't I know who I was anymore, I sure as heck didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up anymore. So I call up the vice president of the investment bank on the 87th floor of #1 World Trade Center. And I said, sir, thank you very much. I really appreciate the offer, but I've decided I don't want to be an investment banker anymore. And naturally, I ran off to Hollywood and chased the Hollywood dream for 13 years, which put me behind the wheel of yellow cab number 6087. Right. Okay? That's the real Hollywood dream. And that's the reality of the Hollywood dream. And while all of my fraternity brothers from Wharton were becoming millionaires and billionaires, on New Year's Eve of the millennium, I end up with 2 MBA interns at Goldman Sachs in the backseat of my cab, and I'm listening in. Hey, man, did you hear about Mr. Carrera? They made him the last partner in the Goldman IPO, and he cashed out $1 gazillion. And I'm like, hey, you guys talking about Chris Carrera? How do you know Mr. Carrera? Carrera was a pledge in my fraternity. And that was the night I said, I can't keep throwing my life away on a dream that's never going to happen. And I swore an oath I was never going to write again. I burned all my screenplays in a bonfire in a dumpster behind one of the nearby condos. And that's when I decided I had to change my life. So there's 2 stories that I never used to tell. How I found out about my real father. I never told that for 26 years out of respect to my mom. But then I realized my mom wasn't paying my mortgage. I was, and I had to make money. And the second story about being a cab driver, man, that was a secret for 16 years. No one knew about that except my dad, his best friend, who was only too happy to announce it. We're sitting in a beautiful steakhouse on Park Avenue South in New York City. In comes my dad's best friend, senior VP at an American stock exchange REIT. Ah, look who it is, the Wharton taxi driver. My dad like shrivels. I kept that a secret. But when I started talking about those 2 stories, that's when my income really started to progress. Because when you identify your powerful stories that you don't want to tell, those stories are able to cut through the clutter of the 5,000 marketing messages bombarding people's ears and eyes every single day. So the number one most important thing, figure out your stories. The second most important thing is learn how to tell your stories from somebody who knows how to be a great speaker. Personally, I have studied with 4 NSA, National Speakers Association Hall of Fame members who have been mentors for me. And every one of them has taught me invaluable things. And I didn't realize I was doing so well as a speaker until one of my mentors, Joel Weldon, who was a founding member of the NSA as well as a Hall of Fame member. I said to him, you know, I'm making 7 figures a year with what I do. So I figure that must put me in the top 5% of all the speakers. He goes, oh, no, that puts you in the top 1% of money earners in the National Speakers Association. So what I have put together is a training program for executives and CEOs and experts of all different kinds. I call it my 7-figure speaker secrets revealed event. And I do that in various forms. I'll be doing that in London as well.
Excellent, excellent. And before we move on to the next question, Clint, let me just remind people that on the screen behind me is your URL for you to go and find out much more about what you're doing. Now, tell me about your recent manifesto, Celebrity Entrepreneurship. Who's it for and how does it work for them?
Okay. People are kind of blown away when they see the quantity of materials that I put out there. I've published 25 books, 21 of which were bestsellers in the last 8 years. And I've published multiple magazines, and I create all this marketing myself. That's part of the Selfie Manifesto. The Selfie Manifesto is that I don't want to manage employees. I don't want to deal with the drama and infantile nature of most employees. I have enough trouble just managing my wife and keeping her from walking through my shots, okay? And I just find it's easier to do it myself. So I write my own books, I publish my own marketing, I create my own videos. I have 2 video series that I create, one of which is called Celebrity Entrepreneurs Adventures, and the other one is called The Greatest Show of All Time. The Greatest Show of All Time is an offshoot of my radio show on 77 WABC Radio in New York City. And I produce my own events. My wife and I are the team. We do it all. And it's just a lot easier. We don't even have VAs, really. We hire independent contractors to do various components of what we need. If we need a video crew, like we just produced a video about what we're doing down here. We hired a crew to come in, and she produced that video with that crew. And that's how we do stuff. We do it ourselves. And that's really what the Selfie Manifesto is about. you're better off doing it yourself than having to manage other people,
Yeah,
especially if they're employees.
Yeah, we're exactly the same. My wife, Kim, and I, totally. But mind, I'm sure that I work for her. You know, look.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah,
what a lot of people say. I'm just a pretty face.
I
That's
know,
right.
I know my place. I know my place. Clint, let's talk USA, UK. We hope that our supposed special relationship between the two countries will continue. Well, especially as this is the 400th anniversary of the landing of the Mayflower. But we Brits have got a lot to learn about doing business in the USA. The USA is the home of the humble brag. You're not shy about business achievements, press coverage, awards, testimonials, and so on. Is that a lesson Brits need to learn if they want to be seen as reputable and trustworthy and do business in the USA? If so, how? If not, then what else?
Look, I've had the great privilege to share my message on the same stage as Buzz Aldrin and Martha Stewart and Dr. Oz, and at great corporations like Mercedes and Coca-Cola, and at the NASDAQ Stock Exchange in New York City. And I've really been blessed to share my message on more than 110 television appearances across the United States and on the BBC, on Sky TV, around the world over the years. It really has been an amazing experience that I could have only dreamed about when I began, but I made it happen. And I think it's essential for any expert, author, speaker, coach, entrepreneur, anybody who wants to have an impact. It only helps you if you can talk about it in a way where you can convey how awesome you are without coming across like a jerk. And that humble brag that you talked about, I call that $1 million positioning statement. And every expert needs to have something like that. Anybody who makes millions of dollars as a speaker has a statement along the lines of what I just did right there. And there's two parts of it. Number one, you've got to create those accomplishments for yourself. Notice I said create them. They don't just fall in your lap. If you're waiting for those places and those people to materialize in your life, you're going to be waiting a long time. You have to make it happen. And a lot of people come to me for mentorship on exactly that, how to get the people and the places, the speaking gigs at the prestigious locations to happen. That's why I'm doing what I do. And then the second part is you have to learn how to talk about it in a way where you don't come across as a jerk. And that's part of the speaker training that I do. One of my mentors is Dan Kennedy. Have you heard of Dan Kennedy?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Dan S. Kennedy, the professor of harsh reality. And he teaches a philosophy, he teaches a marketing tactic called the shock and awe package. And that's when you send them a box of stuff before you even talk to them to enroll them as a client. You send them this shock and awe package to blow their mind. And I say that aw shucks is more powerful than shock and awe.
Right. Okay. Excellent. I love those comments. Now, I also love on your website the testimonials from those who are almost trying to outdo themselves, such as I've doubled my sales, I've tripled my sales, quadrupled my sales. How have you helped people achieve such phenomenal results?
What I do is the real thing. That's what Dan Kennedy says. It's the real thing. When you can be looking for shiny objects, you could be looking for the latest gizmo, gadget, or marketing trick on the internet. But I believe that the real thing is the real thing is the real thing. And this is the stuff that's been working for the most successful entrepreneurs for a long time. And when people come into my world, we're not playing games. We're not using tricks and shiny objects. We're doing what really works to produce New York Times bestsellers, to sell millions of books, to create positioning that motivates customers and prospects to pay you $10,000, $25,000 instantly. And when I go up and sell on stages, when I enroll people into my world, I do what no one else can do. I speak for 10 or 15 or 30 minutes max and enroll people in $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 contracts on the spot from cold prospects. And it's because I have the real marketing that's the real thing. And people can tell the real thing, especially in today's day and age, where everybody is used to seeing so much video and so many speakers and so much content. They can tell what's real, and you can't fool them. So
Yeah.
you need to have the real stuff if you want to be able to do the life-changing, career-changing, revenue-changing, destiny-changing, legacy-changing work with clients that I do. And that's why I'm able to get people to do it. And there's one more part of it, and that is I tend to attract a different level of clientele, people who really want to take action, who have tried a lot of people and they keep searching because they know you got to kiss a lot of frogs. And I don't like to think of myself as a frog. I like to think of myself as the prince after you've kissed all the frogs. When you're ready to come to the prince, then come over here and do the work and implement what I tell you and just do what Clint says. That's rule number one of what I do. Just do what Clint says and you will get the results.
Brilliant. I'm all for that. Now, Clint, it's Walt Disney time or Disney time. I like to give all my guests 3 magical wishes. If I were to give you 3 wishes for how business leaders should see and act upon the new communication skills they need for this new normal, what would your 3 wishes be?
My first wish would be that there were more people like you who were professional and knew how to be good speakers and presenters on audio and on video. There are too many people today who have podcasts who have no business having a podcast. They just really should not be doing it, but what they're doing is they're crowding up the airwaves with all of their stuff and making it really harder for everyone else who knows what they're doing to be a performer. And I guess what that one really translates into is I wish people would learn how to speak and present in an entertaining way. Okay, that's number one. Number 2, I wish that there would be more people who could deliver the real thing instead of great marketers who can market their shiny objects so cleverly, because there's a lot of people who buy into big ideas that have very small results, and those kinds of things really piss me off. And I've spent a lot of money because I'm an easy person. One of my philosophies is be the customer you want to attract. Be the client you want to attract. I'm very easy. I'm a buyer. I see great marketing. I want to buy great marketing. And unfortunately, a lot of the marketing that's out there is marketed better than it actually works. And I wish more people would have more real stuff. And my third wish would be that I wish that people were not filled with so much fear. One of the things I learned early on in my life is that acting out of fear or not acting out of fear is never the right answer. You need to act with courage. You need to have a goal, a vision, and you need to relentlessly, fearlessly pursue that goal and vision. And for me, the breakthrough came way back in 2008. In the fall of 2008, I was at a men's self-help campfire. And what does that look like? That's 18 naked guys dancing around a campfire. And I'm one of them. And I'm looking up at the stars and I noticed there were none. It was pitch black night. And then I see a guy jump over the campfire. And I noticed he was very hairy. And then I saw the shaman pointing at me across the yellow and orange crackling flames. You don't know it yet, but you're already dead. What are you talking about, man? 8 years ago, I was driving a taxi. Now I'm a millionaire. I was living on a little boat. Now I live in a mansion. You're already dead. You just don't know it. And I didn't know what he was talking about, but I couldn't get it out of my mind. For months, I'd wake up out of a sound sleep. I'm already dead. What does he mean? And it came to be New Year's Day of 2009. I woke up inspired by the shaman. And I asked myself the question that changed my life forever. What if this was going to be the last year of my life? What would I want to accomplish? And I wrote down the list of the things that I wanted to accomplish. And when you think you're going to die in an amazing thing, because it gives you plenty of time to do stuff, but yet you have urgency because you know you don't have unlimited time anymore. And that year, I wrote my book, What They Teach You at the Wharton Business School. That was the first thing on the list. And I hadn't written a word since that night on New Year's Eve when I said, I'm done chasing this dream that's never going to happen. And that became my first best-selling book. And that question is what took me to the Today Show, because Brooke Shields and Willie Geist, they said to me on New Year's Eve, 2013, you know, Clint, you ask yourself a question every year. What's that question? And I said, if this was going to be the last year of your life, what would you want to accomplish? That's been my superpower that has enabled me to break through fear, procrastination, and doubt. And that's my wish for every person.
Excellent, Clint. And those were 3 fantastic wishes. I just hope I can make them come true for you. Clint Arthur, I have thoroughly enjoyed meeting you. I'm inspired, I'm excited, and you are the real thing. Thanks very much for the interview.
Great to be with you, Malcolm. Cheers.